Dow Jones up a little bit, 239. Very quiet day, by the way. Volume is always a good indicator of what's going on. Very, very low volume today. Dow up 230. Nice move. I think we hear something in the background. 153 in the NASDAQ, S&P up 34 plus or minus a few. A couple interesting notes. Oil jumped up $1.20, almost $68 a barrel in oil. We've been talking about that. We're talking about gold holding its value, $33.45 as we speak right now. Again, 3,300. Just a very, very strong commodities market, oil and gold. Silver's up as well. And crypto. Crypto's been all the talk lately. MTG was going to come on the show, talk to us about one of the bills that's running through Congress right now, the Genius Bill it's called, and it has a lot of ramifications to crypto. For the time being, crypto is stagnant. It's high, 119,000, right around there for the Bitcoin. Strong, staying strong, and it looks like they're going to get some sort of crypto laws and rules put in, but there's a very important one that MTG, people like myself, don't want. We don't want the government to go to an all-digital currency. We want to make sure the government never says we're going all-digital currencies, because you and I both don't want that. No, none of us want that. People who pay their taxes don't want. We don't want the government to decide whether or not we have access to our own money. So we're going to talk to MTG today. She got pulled aside for a vote, maybe tomorrow. In the meantime, let's bring in. Oh yeah, before we do this is very important. So a lot of us, I get a lot of heat. I get a lot of heat online. People saying, "Why are you talking about Epstein? Why are you talking about Epstein?" It matters because it matters to the folks. A lot of people are upset about Epstein list. Is there one? Is there not one? What's going on? We have to talk about it. We can't pretend it's not a thing. Now, that said, the good news is, especially for Trump supporters who are the ones beating me up the most, watch this.
Look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints or not.
And so we talk about it. And the people who voted for Trump and mandated Trump to do the things he's doing and want it, we're all for it. And guess what? We're not disappointed, but we still need to talk about these things. Importantly, kind of goes right hand in glove. My first guest says he knows Epstein documents are being suppressed and he knows the names on the Epstein list. For more information, let's bring in attorney and author of The Preventative State, The Challenge of Preventing Serious Harms While Preserving Essential Liberties. Mr. Alan Dershowitz is joining us. Alan, really good to be with you again. Thanks for coming on. So, let's be honest, transparent here. You're getting beat up a little bit online too, because they're saying you know the list. If you know the list, who's on the list. How about let us know, why is there a list, number one, and number two, why isn't anyone leaking the list?
Well, there is no list that Jeffrey Epstein prepared. He didn't have a list of clients or a black book of clients. The FBI interviewed some people, and those people claimed that there were certain people they had sex with. Some of the names have been made public. George Mitchell, the former senator, Bill Richardson, the former U.S. ambassador, the granddaughter of Jacques Cousteau, Ehud Barak. These are all names that have been in the public domain for years. They're on that FBI list, but the names have been redacted. I know who the people are because I did the investigation. I was one of the lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein. It was part of my job to investigate who else was being accused. Are they being accused falsely? Are they being accused truthfully? So there is an FBI list, but there is no Jeffrey Epstein list. There's no client list at all.
So many questions. So why don't we see the FBI list, and why don't we know who the rest of the folks are that you mentioned that aren't the ones you mentioned? The other ones, there's got to be more than four that you mentioned.
Yeah, well, the names have been suppressed by the judges, not by the Justice Department. Two federal judges in Manhattan, one who presided in a civil case and the other who presided in the criminal case involving Maxwell, have suppressed the information. A lot of the information that's been suppressed involves not only names of people accused, but information about the accused. I'll give you an example. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom. She wrote letters to the New York Post to a woman named Maureen Callahan, a reporter. And she said she had videotapes of Donald Trump, of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, of Richard Branson, all having sex with young people. And it was right in the run-up to the 2016 election. Wow, what great information. So it was investigated. And then she ultimately admitted she made up the whole story. So the judges have suppressed that. What we don't want to have happen is judges releasing only the negative information without also releasing the information indicating this woman, Shara Ransom, admitted that she had made up the whole story. So if you're going to show the names of the accused, you have to show the negative information about the accusers to be fair. That complicates it because some of the accusers were alleged victims. And so the courts are trying to protect the victims. But this is all the responsibility of the courts, not the Justice Department.
Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. She is really serving Jeffrey Epstein's sentence after he committed suicide. There was no one else to prosecute because there was no real information against anybody else. And so they went after her and they sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
Why is this such a difficult thing to see this list or not list, or it doesn't matter if it's Jeffrey Epstein prepared list, it's see some names of the folks that were the people who were participating in this discussing these acts, right? So why can't we just see them, Alan? Why is it, is this national security risks, or what is it?
I wish I were free to give you some names, but I'm not. I'm under a court order. But the court can make those lists available, and all the Justice Department has to do is say, look, this is 25 years ago. The time has come for history to prevail. And please unredact the names. Let the names come forward. And some of the names, you'll be surprised. You've never heard of them. Ho-hum. This is just obscure people who were accused. Whether they were accused correctly or not, we just don't know.
Is there, let me ask this. There has to be a common thread of powerful, whether it's rich and powerful, maybe, but powerful at the very least, rich, powerful celebrity. Again, I'm trying to figure out, now we've had a Democrat President Biden and a Republican President Trump, and we're still not getting the list, and we've been promised this list for decades.
I know of one name that has been suppressed, and it's somebody nobody's ever heard of. He wasn't powerful at all. He was an obscure guy. He was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and he was accused. The other names on the list are people who knew Epstein but didn't do anything wrong. David Copperfield, Bill Gates, Donald Trump. Donald Trump knew him, but there's no allegation he did anything wrong. Bill Clinton, we know that he knew Epstein, and Epstein, he flew.
I got another one for you, Alan. Got another one for you. Pam Bondi first said there was a list, then there's not a list. Okay, whatever. She, in the cleanup afterwards, said not really a list, but a lot of tape. So why can't they just make a list of the awful people who are on tape doing terrible things to young women?
I know all the tapes. There are no such tapes. Here's what the tapes are. There's one set of tapes that are of his living room because there was a robbery by one of his staff members. And so the Palm Beach police installed a video camera in his living room. And there are tapes of people going back and forth in the living room, no sex. Second, there are sex tapes that were commercially bought. You know, the stuff you can buy on, I don't watch this stuff, I don't know. But you can go and buy sex tapes. There were sex tapes. As far as I know, there are no tapes involving individuals that are recognizable having sex with anybody. I'm not aware of any such tapes. Maybe they exist, but I'm not aware of them.
So why was he in jail and then and allegedly kill himself? I mean, let me see, did he commit suicide? A lot of people think it was, some people who were going to get exposed had a hand in his death. Was he, very quickly, I don't have a lot of time, and why was he in jail if there's nothing? I mean, it's not, porn is not illegal, last we checked.
Alleged to have transported women across state lines for immoral purposes, the same crime that Sean Combs was recently convicted of. And that's why he pleaded guilty, by the way, only to 2 counts of one young woman above the age of consent, one young woman a few months below the age of consent. There were only 2 of them. There were state charges. He pleaded guilty. He got 18 months and had to register as a sex offender. He was never convicted of any federal offense or multiple actions, although he was accused later on. He was in jail awaiting trial when he, I think, killed himself with the help of jailers. I don't think he could have done it by himself.
Interesting. Mr. Alan Dershowitz, thank you. Thank you for your time, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, before we hit a break, just want to remind you about that podcast I talk about a lot, YouTube page, updated daily. You can just hit any one of those places, subscribe, always free. But don't forget to call our toll-free number. We get hundreds of calls a day, and I listen to every single one of them. And we'll play some at the end of the show today. Back in 2.5 minutes. Folks, my next guest is the CEO of a company or a group he calls Crowds on Demand, who turned down a $20 million contract from the activist group called Good Trouble Lives, who have planned marches across the U.S. for today against President Trump and his plan to make America great again. Let's welcome Adam Swart. Adam, you started this group. Just tell us an idea in 20 seconds or less. What is your group? What is your organization? What do you sell?
Well, Eric, great to be on your program. I just want to clarify one thing. It wasn't the organizers of the Indivisible who reached out to us. It was people aligned, wealthy donors. So I want to be clear that I'm not saying specifically it was those people who reached out. So just to set the record straight, don't want to get an angry letter. But what Crowds on Demand does is we're the largest protest company in the country. We specialize in marketing displays, PR stunts, publicity, but probably most notably is advocacy campaigns on behalf of clients across the country.
So you're a group that people can come and say, hey, Adam, we need, 100 people, we need 200 people, we need to protest, and here's the issue. Now, the question is, Adam, are you right of center? Are you left of center? Does it matter who comes to you or whose dollars you're taking?
Well, I think my politics tend to be liberal, but I've become more independent as I've gotten older. So we take business from conservatives and from liberals, but I like to be on the side of common sense. So the big thing is when conservatives are on the side of common sense, as they often are, we'll take their business. When the left is on the side of common sense, we will take their business. But even within those parameters, I want to make sure that every campaign that we take on is something that's going to be ultimately effective. So we refuse contracts that we think are ultimately ineffective for the cause that they're espousing.
Interesting. So you're vetting the cause first and deciding whether you want to do business with these groups. Before we get into some very important questions I want to ask you, but you said if the left comes and says we want to hire you and it's a common sense cause, you find common sense. I'm trying to figure out. I'm not being joking here at all. I don't know one leftist protest that is steeped in common sense. Can you show me one?
Well, for example, stopping a polluting power plant from being put in, maybe asking for better public transportation, better buses, better trains, maybe asking for hospitals that are well funded, or, making sure that people don't die because they're not getting access to health care. So I think the left is often on common sense. I think some folks on the right have been increasingly embracing some of those ideas, but I would argue that those are examples of common sense liberal values.
So you said you turned down a $20 million offer from this group to provide protesters. You didn't think it was in your right, a good business decision to do it. You also point out there are larger ones, No Kings. Were you involved in No Kings? And would that have been a good business decision if you were or weren't offered the gig?
Well, let me be clear. We only involve ourselves in peaceful, law-abiding demonstrations. So one of the reasons I've come on your program is to make sure that we disassociate ourselves with any kind of law-breaking activities. Crowds on Demand only engages in peaceful, respectful protest. So anything that you'd see that wouldn't be within those parameters wouldn't be Crowds on Demand.
All right, now I really want to get into this. This is my background. We're going to talk about the financing of this stuff. First of all, I think it's very important, especially on these, like, for example, today, there's a nationwide protest that's popping up in cities today. I guess you were approached about that. Who is funding these things?
Well, you have to understand, and as an expert in this field, that the political field has just grown. The advocacy field has just grown. Not just protests, but advocacy is a multi-billion-dollar industry. When you have, billions of dollars spent on presidential races and now tens of millions on congressional races, there's a huge need to advocate for your causes. So this is growing, and more or less, billionaires and other well-heeled interests on both left and right are kind of getting in on this because it's one vehicle by which you kind of espouse your views on an issue and by which you are able to actually.
Right. No, I understand the idea. I understand the idea behind protests. It's constitutionally protected activity. First Amendment allows you to peacefully protest. Here's my question, though. My concern is some of these issues that people are protesting may come from outside the United States. So how do you know the money's not coming from George Soros's, groups, or who knows, Russian groups, North Korean groups? How do you know where the money's coming from?
Well, and you're absolutely right that this is a concern, and it's something that we are increasingly concerned about, is that foreign actors, what they want to do is they want to make America look divided and look bad. They want to create violent protests on our streets to make it so that their own people don't demand freedoms on their streets. So that's actually a sad thing, and for people like myself or anyone in the advocacy field, what's incumbent on us is that we really do our due diligence on customers, because what I do, I've been in business 13 years. Crowds on Demand has been around since 2012. We can be selective about who we take on. And what I kind of say is, if I can't be selective, being the top protest company in the country, on who we take on and do the serious vetting, I can't ask other people in this industry to do that as well.
It's so fascinating. I didn't know there was an industry for hiring protesters. So, very good question, Adam. who are these people you're hiring to do the protesting? And it shouldn't. Here's inherently something inside. Look, you're a businessman. I'm all for open business, free markets. If you find a way to make a living, great. All for it, Adam. But for me, I just feel protest should be organic. It should come from inside you, the people who are standing there. It's supposed to be, we're telling them in power that we feel this way. But if you're just placing hired people in there who may not even believe in the cause they're protesting, it kind of loses it for me. Now, what am I missing?
I can only speak for Crowds on Main. Everyone that we have are people who actually do agree with the cause. We're paying them for their time. Just like the way I would see it is you're paid for your time. Your views that you're espousing on this program, they're your sincere views, but you're paid for your time because this is your job to go out there, right? So it's the same thing with the protest. And I think one additional misinterpretation people have is...
Wait, allow me. Wait, let's not glaze over that. Okay, yes. Yeah. However, if you have let's call it right to life, right, or the abortion issue. If you have people, you're literally asking the people you are hiring, not the people who are paying you, but the people you're hiring, whether they're for or against before you place them in one of those protests.
That's what we do. I'm not saying that's what everyone does, but that's what we do because, well, first of all, you wouldn't be very good pro-life activist if you didn't believe in the cause. So number one, it's just purely an issue of Machiavellian effectiveness where someone who doesn't believe in the cause isn't going to be a good advocate. But I think secondarily, we want to do something that feels genuine.
Yeah, Adam, I'm not pushing back on you. I'm trying to say from an outsider's view in, again, this is your world, outsider view in, I don't know what some of these clowns believe when they're protesting Elon Musk outside of Tesla dealerships. I don't know because they may have been liberal in the past. And now they just don't like Trump derangement. I don't know where their belief system is. So for me, I'm not talking to them. I just see a mass of people saying, okay, there's a group of people who don't like Tesla right now. You're not getting inside their ideology. You're just having a body there holding a sign, right?
Well, my goal is to have people who are passionate about the subject, right? And I think that they do the best job. They're the best advocates because it doesn't look good for your movement if somebody asks you, in your example, if somebody says, well, why are you here to protest Elon Musk and Tesla or whatever, and they're unable to articulate a message, right? That's not a good advocate, and that doesn't really behoove the organizers, right?
Real quick, I don't have a lot of time. We're out of time. I want to talk. This is fascinating to me. This is a fascinating discussion. What does it cost to hire, I don't know, let's say 100 people for half a day?
So it really depends on the context because for example, as you can imagine, if you wanted a left-wing protest in Mississippi or a conservative protest in downtown Brooklyn, right, getting those people would be more expensive. So it really depends, but typically kind of our engagements kind of are typically a minimum of $20,000 to kind of get people on the street. And then, it goes up from there depending on obviously how many and some
final question. I didn't really get the answer to it. Who contacts Adam? Like, who is it? Is it an NGO? Is it a Catholic church? Is it a pool of money?
All of the above is the answer. So oftentimes it's wealthy donors who are affiliated with a cause, and because of cancel culture, they don't necessarily want to be publicly affiliated with something, but they say, hey, I want to support this cause. Here's a budget. Go out. Here's what do you think will actually.
I want to bring it back because next big protest. Because we followed this. From the very beginning, I think of real American protests. I'm not talking about civil rights protests. Of modern era protests, it was the Occupy Wall Street. I think they lit everything on fire. They realized the power of protest in America and those folks. And it was a left-wing vision. Bernie Sanders was born of that and became a big senator.
Eric, I would actually push back a little bit on Occupy Wall Street. I would argue Occupy Wall Street was one of the most ineffective demonstrations in American history because if you look at the number of people gathered to the results achieved. So number of people gathered.
It was volume. And we realized but the voices were heard. They shut down a city. They shut down a financial district for a while. And you realize
how's Goldman Sachs doing right now?
Protests can, in fact, create change. And I think, yes,
that's true. That's very true.
Your business,
but it has to be pointed.
You're getting better and better at it. My concern is that the left is the one funding most of the protests in America. And very quickly, if the pie is 100%, what proportion is it right, Republican or Democrat or right, left split as far as hiring the protest?
You'd be surprised how many conservatives hire us. And the reason is because liberals, you have hippies with trust funds out there, right, who can go attend every single city council meeting out there, right? Well, conservatives are actually more likely to have 9-to-5 jobs, more likely to have kids, more likely to have responsibilities. So the left has always outpaced the right in being able to get people out there. So what we've actually been able to do is turn out a lot of conservatives, or what I would say in many cases just common sense people around common sense issues. So a lot of conservatives have hired us both for that reason, because it's harder to get conservatives out to rallies, but secondarily because of the cancel culture by the left, a lot of conservative donors and organizations.
Adam, stay with me. Can you stay with me for a minute? I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to come back to you in just a minute, because like I said, this is just something I never thought I'd be having a conversation like this. Stay with me right here. But first, folks, we've seen bold moves out of Washington since President Trump took office. Fast action, real results. But there's one thing you cannot outsource to your government: looking out for your financial future, your own financial future. If you watch this happening recently, rising inflation, out of control debt, global uncertainty, you know it's time to diversify. That's why I trust Birch Gold. I do. Personally, I do. Gold has surged over 45% in the past 12 months, and central banks around the world are buying it at record levels. Why? Because gold holds value when paper money just doesn't. With Birch Gold, it's easy to convert your IRA or 401k into a gold IRA, or to buy physical gold and store it at home like I do. They walk you through every single step. Just text the word America to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold. No cost, no obligation, just smart information. Again, text the word America to 989898. Take control of your finances now. We will be back with Adam Swart. More. All right, because this interview was so fascinating, we held him over. This is Adam Swart, Crowds On Demand CEO. And Adam, just stay on it for a little bit, because the concern here amongst, I'm guessing, my audience is that there are interests that not aligned to the American people who may be using money, finances, to hire people, maybe not necessarily Crowds On Demand like you, or there are others certainly in your space, right? And how are we going to get comfortable with these? I would call them rent-a-protester.
Well, the people you should most fear are the people who you don't know about. So I'm here on your show. I advertise what I do. I'm public about it. It would not really benefit me if I was out on the media and advertising my products only to do something illegal, right? That'd be quite bad business, right? The people that you have to worry about are the people who don't advertise and who operate in the shadows through what I call a Russian doll network. So Russian dolls are little dolls that fold into bigger dolls. So what happens in the Russian doll network is that you might have some very wealthy interest, or maybe a foreign country, maybe someone very sketchy, right? And they have a foundation, and then that foundation funds advocacy groups. Those advocacy groups fund academic programs, maybe fund, dummy corps, right? Who then fund the people throwing Molotov cocktails or bricks or whatever, right? I mean, there's someone in LA the other day passing out tactical gear, right? That seems pretty sketchy, right, to protesters. So the thing is, what you have to worry about is is not the people like me who are saying this is what I do. I'm a marketer. I'm a publicity firm. We specialize in kind of creative marketing, political strategies, satirical stuff, whereas the people that you have to fear are these kind of people you've never heard of, who are really operating in the shadows and probably engaging in some very illegal things.
Interesting. Permitting, you handle permitting. I mean, it's just, there's so many things this is a while. It's just fascinating interview to me.
Yeah, we do handle permitting. Now, one thing the government does not want you to know is that for the most part, you do not need a permit to rally. You only need a permit if you're going to use amplified sound or if you're going to block off a street. So the government wants you to think you need a permit just to protest. So a lot of conservatives are particularly, but in general, will say, oh, well, I can't protest because I don't have a permit. Yes, you can. You just have to stay on the sidewalk and you can't use amplified sound. So a vast majority of our protests are around 50 to 100 people and do not require any sort of permit.
So now we see these signs. We see a lot of signs, and some of them are pretty interesting on both sides. They're very creative. You do that, or do the people who hire you tell you what to put on these signs?
We'll do a lot of that. And it depends. So some clients will give us a ton of creative freedom, and they'll say, hey, you're the expert, given your 13 years in the field, go write whatever signs you feel like best advance the cause. Other times they'll say, hey, we want this number of people in this place, and we're going to tell you what to do.
Oh, wait, big question, because I'm convinced that a lot of these liberal protests are a bunch of, just disengaged youth who are sitting in their parents' basements with nothing to do. What do you pay a protester? Do by the hour or by the day?
Well, it used to be by the hour, but typically we do it by the day. It's in the kind of low hundreds of dollars per day. So it's good money, decent wage, but it's also compensating people, again, like I said, that are passionate about the issue, are articulate. It's hard work. I mean, they're out there holding signs, oftentimes in the heat, in the cold, right? They have to endure heckling. So I actually think that protesters need to get paid more, frankly.
You ever get hired by the Democrat Party or the Republican Party or any of the kind of satellite groups that are actually
satellite groups?
Go ahead.
We tend to be hired more by satellite groups than specific. Like, a lot of people think that it would be candidates that would hire us, when we tend to be hired more by PACs or wealthy donors or interest groups or advocacy groups who are kind of operating on the sidelines within that. So let's just say there's some tax bill that's going to radically raise taxes in your state. There might be an advocacy group that comes together and says, hey, Crowds On Demand, we need this fund a series of protests against this.
What happens here's what happens. The side benefit of hiring Adam and Crowds On Demand is that once you get critical mass as far as people, you get cameras. Once the cameras start rolling, your cause gets attention. Adam Swart, Crowds on Demand CEO, thank you for, shining a light on some of the things that we all had suspicions about, but now we know what's really going on. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, pleasure.
All righty, folks, take a look at this.
I did the 555 challenge. Todd did not. So I did lose the 5 pounds that you said I would. After the 555 challenge, I had no hot flashes, no leg cramps, no sciatic nerve pain. None of that has come back. None of that has hit me yet. My hair started growing and got softer. I do have what's called like silent reflux. That's gotten better, and I don't sleep with my CPAP anymore. I watched this man.
4 pounds fall.
That's true. He did lose 4 pounds just by following me on the 555 challenge.
I'm doing it, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
Well, that was a look at a very happy, energized health client. But did you know around 50% of Americans report experiencing stress in their daily lives? Chronic stress can leave you living in what they call survival mode with pain and chronic disease. John Jubilee, founder of Energized Health, joins us to tell us how to get out of survival mode and get better. Welcome, John. What happens to our body when we find ourselves in survival mode?
Well, what that is, it's there's a response mechanism we have. We've all heard it, the fight or flight, mechanism. And what happens when we get in that survival or fight or flight mechanism is that we overproduce cortisol in our body, which exacerbates the problem. It makes us feel more stressed. It makes us feel more anxiety. And a lot of us, though, interestingly, that we believe it's because of our circumstances of our life. When 90% of the time, 9 out of 10 times, it has nothing to do with the circumstances in our life. It has to do with the biological and the chemical part of our life that's happening inside our body at the cellular level. And so we found over the last 28 years of helping tens of thousands of people that when you go to the root cause, what is the real root cause of the stress or feelings of anxiety, and get healthy at the cellular level, the stress is gone, the anxiety is gone. It is a cellular health problem. It is not really a circumstantial problem.
So I know this from just totally into health. Cortisol, you need it, but it also can be damaging if you produce too much. It causes inflammation, right? But so how does this all work with your metabolism? How do you regulate cortisol?
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you said that, by the way. So it's just like, people talk, cholesterol gets a bad rap, cortisol gets a bad rap. We need good, healthy cholesterol in our body, in our brain. We need good, healthy cortisol. But anything in excess is damaging for us. So this is the beautiful part of our patent pending science. It allows your body to basically have like its own personal river of living water flowing through it. So if we have excess cholesterol, if we have excess cortisol, it is consistently purging that out of the cells and out of the body so that your body is in the balanced, healthy level that it's designed to be at, so you have optimal health at the cellular level.
Finally, John, tell us about the 555 challenge that you're extending right now.
Yeah, so listen, you just heard this lady put a big smile on my face. I mean, look, that woman in 5 days, right, was able to change her life. Got off her CPAP machine. She could even tell her hair was, coming back, a sciatic nerve. So what could happen for you who's listening to us right now? Listen, you can change your life in just 5 days, and it's not whole days. It's about 45 minutes a day with Chelsea and I. But you can watch a recorded video. Now, we're going to be on there live. You can join us live, or you can watch a recording whenever you want to during the day with your cup of coffee. But we'll share with you in 5 days how to take your first steps to getting healthy at the cellular level. So a 1,000-mile journey begins with what? 1 or 2 steps. We'll put you in the right direction for the first time in your life. This could be the last thing that you ever do. Just go click on the button, my555challenge.com. It's $5, cup of coffee to join us. We will help you have your best health for the rest of your life.
There you go. Journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step and one click of the button. John Jubilee, thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right, folks, we'll be back 2.5 minutes. You love this one. I love this segment. I know you guys do, because you light up the chat lines when we talk about these crazy things that liberals do. Anthony Bernal. How many people genuinely know or have a clue who that is? While his name may not ring a bell, his actions certainly will when you hear about this guy. This man is widely believed to have been the master puppeteer behind the Joe Biden presidency, or some would call it a comedy show. He's even been referred to as Jill Biden's work husband. Take a listen to how this shady man responded when he was asked about Hunter Biden and old Joe's health and more.
Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick. Okay, we'll go back on the record. Mr. Bernal, was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
See the pattern here? Biden's doctor pleads the Fifth. This guy who's widely believed to have been the puppeteer behind the Biden presidency, which we all know is Barack Obama. And I mean, let's be honest, not this Anthony Bernal guy or whatever his name is. Florida Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, I might point out, is a Republican, just introduced the Dignity Act, which allows illegals to stay in America as long as they can go 5 years without raping or killing anyone. Isn't that nice? Take a listen to this.
If you are undocumented and you have been in the country for more than 5 years, you do not have a criminal record, you're working and paying taxes, you can come out of the shadows with no fear and apply for the dignity status. That means they will pay a fine of $7,000 over 7 years, buy their own health insurance with no access to any federal programs, and contribute 1% of their salary to the United States Treasury. That is $50 billion plus. Just do the math. In return, they will never be deported. They will be able to go home for Christmas or to go bury their mother and come back to the United States to continue working and paying taxes. It gives them a dignified life in the promised land.
She's not a Democrat. Listen, there are ways to do this, but this is certainly not the way. There are ways to bring the people out of the shadows and start to pay their fair share of taxes, but that is certainly not. You don't reward breaking the law and criminally coming across the board. You just don't reward that, Maria. Really? Republican from Florida? What district? Maybe we know someone that would like to run for Congress in Florida. I don't know. Someone living in Florida, perhaps. I don't know. Someone living near Miami where her district is. I don't know. You know anyone like that? Ben, you know anyone that fits that bill?
I'm sure we could find someone.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We're in South Florida. In Minneapolis, a candidate for mayor just said that white people present the biggest domestic threat in this country. Listen to this very bizarre approach to, I guess, grabbing some headlines. Listen.
Heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race, not our immigrants.
So now you liberals in New York who have Mamdani, the literal admitted communist socialist guy who wants to just upend the whole system, government, finance, everything. Now this clown wants to be mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota. What's happening to this country? We got to stop this. I mean, I remember a day where you couldn't even be accused of being a socialist or communist. You get thrown out of the place. Now they're running on it and calling white people the biggest threat in this country. 83% of the country is white, and you want to call white people the problem here? Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who is almost never right about a single thing, was absolutely blown away by that guy, New York socialist Zoran Mamdani. Go figure. If Jayapal supports something, if it's often smart to support the other side if you're a conservative like us. But here she is going on and on about the man who wants to destroy the city that never sleeps.
Yeah, he's bringing the party together at this point.
Look, he's bringing anybody who can see the reality of the success of his candidacy and his campaign together. Anybody that's staying out at this point instead of endorsing this incredible dynamic leader is missing an opportunity.
Do you think he won over any of the new members who weren't supporting him or on the fence?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you think he won over any members?
Not to be won over because it's the combination of his authenticity, his smarts, and his commitment to lifting up working people and making life better for real folks that is really inspiring.
You know, if COVID didn't convince half of the state of New York and the city of New York City to move to Florida, hiring or electing this clown surely will. You'll be paying insane taxes in New York. Come on down. Just don't bring your liberal policy up there. Hopefully you get so sick of liberal policies like this guy Zoran Mamdani, you come to Florida and you vote Republican the way you should. Jayapal met up with Zoran to shoot a little content for their internet army of deranged liberals. Watch.
All right, everyone, I am here. Zoran Mamdani, who is the leading candidate for mayor in New York City. He has so many incredible firsts, but the thing I love about Zoran is what he is doing to lift up working people. And Zoran, what can people do to help your campaign?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Congresswoman Jayapal for having supported this campaign, being a part of the story that brought us to this point. And if anyone wants to join our campaign, go to zoranfornyc.com/events. You will start to see canvases that you can join. You can also donate to us so we can take on Andrew Cuomo one more time.
Let's do it, everybody. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani.
So you got Jayapal. I believe she was born in India. I think she was born in India. Wanting a socialist, a progressive leftist socialist / communist to run the city of New York. You got Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. You've got that mayor that wants to be the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota. These are all people who hate the American system. Why are we electing these people? You clowns on the left, you're killing the country. You're killing your party. There's going to be another party. There's a Trump wing of the Republican Party because the establishment sucked. And he found out where the real heart and minds of those folks were, and we embrace it. There's going to be a Democrat that comes in and does the same thing. It gets rid of all these socialist lunatics. You can often tell a lot about a candidate based on the people who support their campaign. Congresswoman Jayapal, that one right there, a known extremist, is certainly not the best representation of the American people. Her support of Zoran Mamdani should tell you everything you need to know about this campaign and future policies. Jayapal is a crooked and corrupt liar who only cares about herself and her best interests. She was recently asked why she never brought up the Epstein files under Biden, but then she likes him now. Listen to her response.
If you see such a need to investigate this, why didn't you raise it during the Biden administration? I mean, we couldn't find that you made any public comments about Epstein in previous administrations.
Well, I would have been happy to raise it then as well. Frankly, we were focused on so many different pieces, but I have been one of the Democrats that has been consistent on what I call out Republican presidents for and Democratic presidents for.
So then why didn't you call for more transparency earlier during the Biden administration? I'm just trying to better understand why you are so intent now on calling for this.
Well, I think I gave it the same focus that I'm giving it now. We haven't, I think I've released one tweet on this, and you wanted to talk about it, so I'm happy to talk about it here. But it certainly hasn't been the focus. I'm just responding to what I think is a massive switch from the Trump administration around this issue.
They do. They flip-flop on everything. Every single thing. All right, we'll be back 2.5 minutes. wanted to play this again. We played it at the top of the show, but I want to play it for you again because a lot of people are asking me, why do you keep talking about Epstein? And let me tell you something, folks. Whether you like it or not, it's a story. It's a news story. Both sides are engaged in, is there a list? Is there not a list? Why isn't there a list? Why aren't we being lied to? Are we being told the truth? Everyone wants to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with talking about it. You're not being anti-MAGA by talking about this like some people are accusing us and me of being. And I will give you proof right here, right now, from none other than CNN.
And look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints or not.
You hear that line? He's at the apex or close to the apex of his popularity since he's been president. So let's have this discussion. We are owed the honest and transparent truth about what's going on. That's all. Where no one's getting down or pro-MAGA or anti-MAGA or splitting MAGA. I want all of us together. And let's circle the wagon around Trump, but let's find out what's going on, all right? Hey, Ben, let's get some voicemails.
Copy that. We got a viewer who has a side bet for you.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, Eric, I'm not a rich man, but just for a little side bet between you and me, here's an easy one. I'll bet you $10,000 that the education department never gets dismantled and the pedophilia people keep rolling on 100%. How's that for an easy bet for you, big guy?
Well, I don't know about that. I hope you're wrong on both of them. I'm not going to bet you because I only bet on sports through my Hard Rock betting app. I'm not going to bet you, but I think it will. I think it makes sense to push education to the states. I mean, if Trump, if he wins the midterms, if he keeps the House and the Senate, I think you'll get it dismantled. I really do. I think a lot of things are going to depend on the midterm because it's a lot to do in 2 years. You need that full 4 years. So that's why we continue to need to support Trump. Ben, next one.
So this viewer, they love Rav, but they're not too happy with us.
Eric, you're a good man. Bolling's a good man. Bannon's a good man. But I just finished watching some more Bannon. I hope the hell you guys are smart enough to get the hell away from the bombing station because this is going to be an implosion when this man's done because he didn't play the game by MAGA rules. And it's going to hurt him in 60 days. It's going to be a freaking mess because this man he played the game and he's bought and paid for it, and MAGA knows it, man. And we are MAGA. It's a disappointing thing that the deep state cannot be removed. And it's not going to be removed. And Donald Trump is going to betray all his people before it's over. May God be with you, my man.
And God be with you, too. I hope you're wrong, and I hope you just have some patience. Please just have some MAGA is not splitting. MAGA is a group. MAGA rallied behind Trump. It's America first. It makes sense. We're here. We're here to stay. We can't shoot down other people for wanting to hear about the list. Trump he'll get rid of the deep state. He will. If you think Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are just there for their good looks, you're wrong. They're not that good-looking guys. Sorry, guys. They're smart, and they're badasses. They're going to clean house. Just give him time. Take a breath. Give him time. Ben, we have time for one more?
Yep, we got time. This is someone asking, what happens after you plead the fifth?
Hey, Mr. Bolling. Hey, I'm glad you got this number to be able to visit with you about. I've been a long-time fan of Rav and will continue because of people like you on there. My question, I'm Dennis Sindel in Ontario, Oregon. My question is, what is the further legal process after someone pleads the fifth in order to hopefully find the truth? I appreciate it, and you have a great program going, and I'm constantly listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep listening. The Constitution protects people from self-incrimination, allows them to plead the fifth. Then, when they plead the fifth, you have to rally the legal minds around it and Just bring evidence. You just got to bring the evidence. And that's why we need these investigations to continue. We can't say, sweep it under the rug, there's no list, let's move on. We need to find out, because if there's people on the inside in the deep state who are part of this cabal, raping little women and children, they need to go too. Got to stay on it. Listen, Trump he's still a boss. He's going to get it cleaned up. He's going to get it fixed. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I am MAGA strong. Folks, have a great day. War Room's coming up next. We have a doctor come on and talk to us about that diagnosis with Trump we heard today. So that's tomorrow. See you tomorrow, folks.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Thursday, 17 July, year of our Lord 2025. The show that we were going to have, we had to junk just moments ago. A press release I want to read. A Voice of America employee, Seth Jason, has been arrested and indicted for threatening Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to assassinate Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene using phones at the VOA studios to threaten Greene and her staff. The phone calls came from inside the Voice of America studios and control room, where threats were made to the district offices of Congressman Greene over a 15-month period. The indictment says the Voice of America employee threatened to kidnap and use firearms to kill Congressman Greene, her staff, and their families. The calls started during the Biden administration in October of 2023, with the last call coming the day after President Trump was inaugurated. Seth Jason, the VOA employee, is going to face a judge, I guess, late this afternoon, or maybe even as we speak. If convicted, he could face nearly 20 years in a federal prison. Carrie Lake, the head of Voice of America, joins us. Carrie, what is going on here, ma'am?
It's incredibly disturbing. I've known about this investigation for over a month, but have had to pretty much keep some of the details quiet while they worked on the investigation, because the goal was to arrest a dangerous person and take them off the streets. And the arrest came, it looks like early this morning. It was a VOA employee, Seth Jason. He's charged with a series of federal charges, including influencing a federal official by threatening a family member, influencing a federal official by threat, interstate communications with a threat to kidnap or injure, and anonymous telecommunications harassment. Those combined come with 27 years behind bars if he is found guilty. These are allegations right now, but we became aware of this a couple of months ago when the Capitol Police showed up at the VOA headquarters and mentioned that there had been threats that had come from the phone lines at Voice of America over about a 15-month period from October of 2024 right up until January 21st, the day after President Trump was inaugurated, threatening phone calls that were going, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, to Marjorie Taylor Greene's home office, which is in Georgia, threatening the people who worked with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congressman from Georgia, threatening her, death threats, and including threatening their families as well. Now, the indictment names Seth Jason, a longtime employee at Voice of America. He has been relieved and let go. Of course, we're downsizing at that agency. 85% of the workforce since I got there has been eliminated or told they will be terminated. He's one of them. And I believe he is now in police custody. If he hasn't already appeared before a judge, he will be appearing before a judge in the coming hours today.
Okay, it says in the release it was October of 2023, not 24. Is that,
Thank
do you have later information?
Yes. I got that wrong.
October
yes, 23. Yes,
here's
October
my
23.
question. We know that, we know you've gone in to drop the hammer over there and to downsize the place and to get at all the people that hate America out of there. But where's the supervision when you have a guy that's making death threats to a congressman's office? Were there any controls on this place, particularly when they says it came from the control room? The phone calls came from the control room. I mean, what was, and it stopped immediately upon President Trump taking office and you guys going over there. What was this place like? How was it run before you got there? I mean, how's a guy for, a year and a half, right? Almost 2 years, sit there and make death threats about it, not just her, but her family, her employees and their families, ma'am.
Well, this is somebody who is a technician and understands that, there's a lot of phones in a newsroom, and there's many newsrooms at Voice of America. And I'm assuming that he understood which phones were directly connected to an employee and which ones weren't. When you have phone lines in studios and in control rooms where dozens of people show up every day, and that phone line is not directly connected to one employee, it would be easier to make threatening phone calls if indeed he is found guilty of such allegations. So this is a person who knew about where the phone lines that would be connected and tied to an individual and ones that are more for use with the general staff. And it looks like those threatening calls, death threats, mind you, to a sitting member of Congress were made out of Voice of America. Now, let's just take a step back here and look at the bias in the media that we've seen for so long. And the bias has leaned in one direction. When I was asked about this during my congressional hearing about 3 weeks ago, I mentioned in my opening remarks that I had recently learned that Voice of America had become the scene of a crime, according to Capitol Police, and that I was very disturbed to hear that threatening phone calls had been made to a sitting member of Congress. None of the Democrats on that committee asked me any questions about it. It was Chairman Mast who said, wait a minute, tell me more about that. You're telling me that somebody who works at Voice of America made threatening phone calls to a member of Congress? He was the only one interested in getting more information, to which time I told him about what I knew about it. And he said, may I ask, were they threatening a Democrat or a Republican? And I said, well, I'll let you guess based on what you've heard. We've seen so much hatred towards conservatives coming from the mainstream media, coming from the media in general, and that somebody would feel so emboldened that they would make phone calls. If this turns out to be true and a conviction is made against this man, that he would feel so emboldened that he felt comfortable enough to do that from inside of a newsroom is shocking. It tells you the state of the American newsroom in 2025.
He was someone you'd already designated was going to be part of the downsizing?
Yes, he'd been on administrative leave, and I understand that he had been given a notice for reduction in force. So he's not working in the building right now. He was arrested, it looks like potentially from his home, but I'm not sure. He was arrested in Maryland. Now, here is a real shocker that I learned in reading through some of the information I've got. He was a volunteer reserve officer for the Anne Arundel, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, County Police. So he was a reserve officer. A volunteer reserve officer. They have now announced that he is no longer with them. They've terminated their, his volunteership with their police force. So this is a guy who worked at Voice of America, was volunteering at a county police facility, and according to this indictment was making death threats to a sitting member of Congress and her staff and their families. Can you imagine the horror of these people who have to work and sit in this office where they're getting death threats made against them, threatening kidnapping and death by using a gun?
Has, in your investigation, and maybe you can't tell us this, because in your investigation, have you found out what other employees, if any, knew about it and are actually accessories after the fact?
What I can tell you is that when Capitol Police came in, they had a recording of the phone calls that were made, and they initially played them to a member who works in our security who did not know or recognize the voice, because this member of our security hadn't been there long enough to really get to know the employees. Now, mind you, the vast majority of people who work at Voice of America, many of them, English is their second language. Some don't even speak English, and so many of the employees, when they do speak English, they have accents. This was a very much sounding an English-speaking, very much American. It sounded like an American employee. And so the member of security